Hey, what's up everybody? Back here for another weekly hive inspection of number 5. Just wanted to show you the front entrance real quick. So it is Sunday, August 2nd, about 12 noon. The heat index has the temperature over 100 degrees, but that's nothing out of the ordinary for this time of year. So yeah, just another weekly inspection of hive number 5. I've said this in previous videos, I'm actually going to change gears. Now that the nectar flow has been over, it's not necessarily really swarm season anymore. I'm going to change gears and get out into the hives every 2 weeks after today. So the next inspection will be about mid-August and then early September. So hive number 5, let's see if I can remember the history of this. Yeah, I made that split June 12th, went out of town, shared this story a few times, came back, gave them an additional week. So 3 weeks later, queen right, marked the queen the first time I got into them, which was around the Independence Day holiday, so early July, and that was about 3 weeks ago. So they are now about 6 weeks old, or 6 weeks of being an established colony. Added one of the supers I harvested this year, so it does have drawn foundation on there, which I've shared this in previous videos as well. That is part of my overwintering plan this year. So no queen excluder. For this colony they have drawn frames in the, I was gonna say a medium, but that's actually a shallow. So between feeding them and giving them the extra space, they should have immediate food source to use to create food stores, obviously, or to draw out more wax where they need. And with the added space, the queen should have the space to eventually move up and expand the brood nest into. Also, the only hive I am currently using a migratory cover on, I don't think that's going to have any negative effects. It's just something different I'm doing this year. Ran out of equipment, went to order some from Man Lake. They had covers on back order. Didn't really feel like messing around with that. Plus, they're pretty expensive too when you buy the external telescoping cover, the inner cover. Just didn't really want to spend that kind of money, so just decided to make my own out of 3/4 inch plywood and then painted it with a quality external paint, and that should do the job. All right, let's take a quick look into the top box here just to show you what I'm talking about. So because this was one of the supers I used this year for honey harvesting, I had no doubt that the bees would be up in the super this week, doing a few things, probably most likely just cleaning out any bit of residual honey that was left over. But let's move or remove one of these frames and just kind of take a look to see what they've been up to. And it looks like they're probably using some of the sugar water. Yeah, store some food, which is great. That's exactly what I want to see. All right, let's set this box aside. Actually, let's give them some smoke just in case the queen is up here. Maybe that'll be enough to drive her down into the bottom box. That is something, as I said that, I thought to myself, that's something that I'm gonna have to remember to check. So because they don't have a queen excluder, if I don't find the queen in the bottom box, she might be in the top box. And with the feeder, the brood chamber, the deep here, has 9 frames. So I moved them into a 10 frame box. It's been a few weeks, maybe a month. And they still have some work to do on the outer frames, which is fairly typical. But yeah, just want to check to see how the drawn frames are looking. So that's a pretty typical food store. Same thing on that side. Should see a few frames of brood. Depending what I do find, I might checkerboard a frame, just move a newer frame that doesn't have any drawn comb or anything. Move that into the center, maybe not the direct center, but between some established frames. just to kind of force the bees to draw that out. I don't have my flashlight with me, but I do see a bunch of pupated larvae, and I would not be surprised. Yeah, I see eggs on that side. So I should find the queen in the next frame or two. It's a whole bunch of food on that frame, stored nectar, most likely the sugar water I'm giving them. Which I've said this in a previous video as well, that is something to be careful of. If you feed them too much, you can introduce your own problems, and the main problem is a hive becoming honey-bound. And something else people have commented on lately is it doesn't look like, well, the comments have to do with, there's the queen right there. The comments have to do with to where it looks like colonies don't have a lot of brood. So something to keep in mind. Let me put her back before anything happens. Something to keep in mind for the northern hemisphere, I'm in North Carolina, is we experienced the summer solstice on, I think it was June 20th? June or July 20th? I think it was June 20th actually. So the summer solstice is when the queens actually start laying less brood, or creating fewer brood, less eggs, because, well, there's really not a need for it. The nectar flows over, they're going into winter, and you actually don't want a lot of bees going into winter. Let's see, I might top them off later. They have about half a gallon. Actually, I'm going to give them just a little bit. I'll be right back. Let me finish that thought. So yeah, the summer solstice, bees start, or the queens start laying fewer eggs because they don't need a large colony going into winter. On the other hand, the winter solstice, which is usually around late December, that's when the queens start laying more eggs because the days actually become a little longer. Summer solstice, the days start becoming a little shorter. So the winter solstice, being late December, they start laying more eggs, and given the time it takes an egg to hatch, 3 weeks for a worker bee, a few cycles later, boom, it's spring. Hot colonies roll out of the winter with an abundance of bees to build up, well, not to build up, but to have a big foraging force for the nectar flow. So a few fun facts. Let me get some sugar water. Share all that because quite a few comments I've received lately on Instagram and Facebook, people saying, oh, that colony doesn't look like it has a lot of brood. Well, that makes sense given the time of year it is. So if you didn't know that, hopefully you saw that part of the video, or you're watching, and hopefully that's some good information for you. So if you have hives that look like they are not, the queens are not laying as much brood as they were earlier in the year, around the spring and everything, that's totally normal. Just do a quick Google search, beekeeping, summer solstice, and winter solstice, and you'll find quite a few articles that have a lot of good information. But yeah, that's the main difference. The summer solstice, again, the days become a little shorter, therefore the queens are laying fewer eggs. But winter solstice is when the days start to become a little longer, and the queens know this, the bees know this, and they start laying more eggs in preparation for the spring. So there you go. Knowledge is power, I guess. Just a brief look at the front entrance. That was a very non-invasive inspection, didn't really disturb them that much. And that does it for another weekly inspection of hive number 5. Like I said, I'll be out here in 2 weeks. I'll give them a break. And part of that, I'm also curious to see, by disturbing them less often, so twice a month versus 4 times a month, if the colonies actually start to look better. Better brood, fuller brood, basically just because I'm disturbing them less often. So it's all an experiment. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, everybody. Another weekly inspection of hive number 5.